All right, so here is a 10-minute Mat Pilates workout in which you're going to be seated to begin for roll down. You tuck your pelvis and you round your spine into a large expression of flexion as you roll back just to about your sacrum, and then you come right back up. It's an inhale back and an exhale to rise. And once you do a few, you can roll back a little further to about the rib cage. You want to utilize your hands to a minimum here to challenge the work in your abs as you curl forward, but also as you control the way back. The whole time we want to be long to avoid passive flexion. Even as you exhale to curl up, you're still trying to be tall like a capital C rather than like a baby C shape. But you control the way back every time you roll back, and it's a great time to exhale when you end up curling forward. Then we'll go ahead and roll back one more time here, and then we'll move on to the 100. You can go ahead and curl forward, pumping your arms vigorously. In tabletop here, it's an inhale through the nose for 5 and an exhale through the mouth for 5. And if you want to progress, you can extend your legs all the way out to straight legs. Or you can have them be dynamic, in which you exhale as the legs extend and inhale as the legs come in. But it's an inhale through the nose for about 5 pumps and an exhale through the mouth for about 5 pumps throughout the sequence, regardless of what variation you choose. And we're seeking a neutral pelvis and a neutral lumbar spine throughout the movement. When you exhale, you want to push all the air out, trying to engage the deep core to generate intra-abdominal pressure. Then once you come in, it can feel nice to hug your knees in, give yourself a little stretch, and we'll move on to the roll-up. Legs are extended here. You curl forward to round all the way forward, lengthening over the legs, and you control the way down. You can point or flex at the ankles, but try and keep your legs straight when you curl forward because the knees will want to do a little micro bend for most bodies. But we're working hard in both directions, so as you roll down, go ahead and take your time so your superficial abs get to work eccentrically. Exhaling all the way forward and then inhaling to roll back. But you can always take more than one breath if needed. Then, following the roll-up, we'll go ahead and move on to some bridges in which you press down with the soles of your feet to bend the spine vertebra by vertebra on the rise and descend. As you go through this, we want to go ahead and make sure you maintain the tuck of the pelvis the whole time, even though it may be tempting to come out of it. Then when we move on to one-legged bridges, you do a flat back bridge. You press down onto the floor, hinging up and hinging all the way down. But you don't fall down, you slowly come down. You can hold it here as you point up and flex down with the extended leg. But the movement of the extended leg does not affect the neutrality of the pelvis. Then when you switch legs here, make sure your foot is in alignment with your sitting bone as you hinge up and you support yourself back down by controlling the rate of the descent. Then you can go ahead and hold the bridge here as you point up and flex down with the extended leg. And then once you have completed your last one here, you keep the left leg all the way up and you hinge all the way down. Then after all that work in your hip extensors, it can be nice to strengthen your hip flexors with single leg circle. The leg goes around, down, and around to generate a circle. You want to utilize your abs to generate the rotation and avoid the rotation of the spine from moving the shoulder girdle. It's an inhale to go wide, exhale to go around, and then once you've completed your last one, you just scissor your legs and continue with your flow. Keep doing your best to time the exhale with the rotation, and it can be helpful to laterally rotate the leg that is dynamic, as the lateral rotation can allow a greater range of motion in the hip complex, meaning your leg can go wider. But once you wrap up your last one here, you will go ahead and we'll come all the way up to a seated position. As the legs go into a straddle, I prefer to point my toes, but you're welcome to flex your foot as we go for some side bends. The hand on the floor here is just like a kickstand. You're really light in the hand, and when you side bend up and over, it is up and over rather than simply collapsing onto the side. Then once you've evened yourself out, your arms go forward for spine stretch forward. You lengthen all the way forward and you come right back up. Notice the curvature of the spine. The neck flexes, then the thoracic spine, and then all the way down to the lumbar. And you stack the spine up, starting from the bottom, working your way up. Now it's spine stretch forward rather than down. So make sure your intention is to move forward. Then as your arms go wide here, you go ahead and do saw, which is simply like a rotated spine stretch. You rotate, then you curl forward within the same idea. The chin goes towards the chest, you bend the spine vertebra by vertebra, and it should feel really good to get a little bit of rotation and flexion for a multi-planar movement, meaning we're moving in multiple planes in the same movement sequence. Then for the series of 5 here, we begin with single leg stretch, neutral pelvis, neutral lumbar spine, and you're pulling the leg towards you when you touch it while stretching the opposite leg forward. Double leg stretch, it's an exhale when you get big, inhale in. Notice how the flexion of my spine doesn't change significantly when my arms go overhead. It can be tempting to roll down at that point. Then for scissors, you can point or flex at your ankles. They both work for different reasons. And you want to make sure that the pulling on the leg doesn't impact the pelvis. But for a double leg stretch, 2 legs go down and the legs go up. Most common mistake is moving the legs too much. So you want to go ahead and prioritize the neutrality of the lumbar spine and the pelvis over the range of motion of the legs. But your abs should be burning here. And you get to keep your chest lifted for crisscross. Make sure you are actually rotating your spine here rather than laterally flexing. And the elbow does not reach for the knee. Your ribs reach across your mat. Ooh, but that one is an oldie but goodie, so it's nice to give yourself a little bit of a stretch after completing the series of 5, and you'll end up lying down on your stomach to balance out the movement of the spine and go into some extension. For swan, your hands are placed by your shoulders, but we're lifting up through the spinal extensors rather than pushing with the arms, so then we can help strengthen your back. In this swan, we're going to keep the neck nice and long to help emphasize extension down the chain, such as in the thoracic spine and, of course, your lumbar. As you go through this, notice how my legs are wide. They are a little bit wider than my mat, or than my pelvis, and they're laterally rotated. Now, same here with scapular retractions. Your arms go up, you draw your scapula together, and back down. And I'm keeping my spine stable throughout this movement to help strengthen my deltoids as well as my scapular retractors. The abs are on here the whole time, and as your hands go over each other, your forehead could go on your hands for single leg lifts. You lift a leg up by generating hyperextension in the hip complex, meaning that your leg moves independently of the pelvis and it goes into extension, or in this case, towards the ceiling. We want to avoid dumping into the lower back as you do this because your core is on, and you can also do this with 2 legs. Both legs rise together and both legs descend. But remember, on the descend, it is eccentric work. So you are slowly going down, and you can go ahead and lift the head and chest here as well. Why not add some spinal extension? But make sure you work within the limitations of your body and just move in a way that feels appropriate for you. But the way down is work if you allow it to be. Then from here, we can go ahead and do a little child's pose or shell stretch. You're welcome to just hang here, or if you want to add some extension, you can press down, lifting the head and chest up. It should feel really nice. And then you round the spine to go back down. It's an inhale to rise as you go up into this extension, and then exhale back down. And as you continue to enjoy the stretch, remember the extension is voluntary. You can do this, or you can enjoy a well-earned shell stretch. You can always bring your hands to the side of your mat, and you just want to breathe into the side that you're stretching. But once you have completed this last set, I hope you enjoy this 10-minute mat workout, and make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.